My name is Didem. I'm Canadian, and that's why I'll refer to soy as soy and not soya, just for your reference. We'll talk today in a very quick 10 minutes whether soy is good or bad for you. As I mentioned, I am from Canada, but currently I live in Istanbul, Turkey, where I run my private practice called Plantgevity Nutrition Solutions. So in this very brief time, I'm going to introduce soy to you, and then we'll review the perceived nutrition myths that abound around soy. We'll look at the real health benefits. Of course, we have to touch on the GMO controversy. And finally, I'll attempt to set the record straight. When I say soy, I'm referring to the soya bean. Uh, this has been a staple food actually for thousands of years in the world, mainly in Asia, but it's growing in popularity all over. And soybeans are a wonderful source of many nutrients, namely protein and lots of other minerals. It also contains something called phytoestrogens. And contrary to what the name suggests, it acts very differently from the estrogen in our bodies, the hormone. And that's partly why it is so good for us. We'll review that when we come to the health benefits. For me, I think the most amazing thing about soy is that it's so versatile. You can make so many things with soybeans with various levels of processing, of course. But we have to remember that, as with all plant-based foods, the less processing, the better. So if we start with how it's found in nature, soybeans are found in pods. So what you see here at the very my left of the screen are edamame beans. These are usually found frozen in major grocery stores. I even find them in Turkey, and you can just steam them and eat them straight from the pod, or you can shell them and add them to whatever dish you may be making. And these are extremely nutritious foods. Next in the line comes tempeh, still very healthy food. It's a fermented soybean patty. And if you look closely, you can actually see the individual soybeans in this. Further along the processing line, we have tofu. Now, in researching for this presentation, I was shocked to discover that when we take soybeans and make tofu, we lose about half the nutrition. That's insane, half the protein, fiber, and some minerals. But here's what's even more crazy. The fact that soybeans are so healthy to begin with, we could throw away half the nutrition and still be left with a pretty healthy product. So tofu is a great choice as well. And it's versatile in its own right. It comes in a variety of textures, and it can be used in both savory and sweet dishes. Finally, there's also soya milk. In my opinion, I mean, I personally prefer soya milk as a plant-based milk because it has a high amount of protein compared to other alternatives like almond or oat milk. And last but not least, there are those vegan mock meats or vegan junk food. I have to say, soybeans are used in, burgers and things like that. And you really have to watch out for these. Check the ingredients. Oftentimes, they're not even using soybean. They're using some sort of soya protein isolate. They've really deconstructed it. And the fat and the sodium could be really high in these. So, I mean, they have their place, though. They're great for people who might be transitioning, from an omnivorous diet to a more plant-based way of eating. And once in a while as a treat, why not? But generally, the saying "less is more" applies here. Try to pick, soya products that have been processed in the least amount. Now, some of the nutrition myths that you might see in the media include, don't eat soy because it'll cause cancer, especially breast cancer, or it'll promote man boobs, and it's not safe for children. But the research doesn't support this. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The research shows that soybeans can reduce the risk for many cancers, including breast cancer, and that man boobs are probably more likely due to a SAD diet, a standard American diet, than having eaten a lot of tofu. And soy is a healthy food for children of all ages, boys and girls. So let's begin with breast cancer. We know from research that soy reduces the risk for breast cancer. In one study, where women had a daily cup of soya milk or half a cup of tofu daily, they reduced their risk of breast cancer by 30%. And for women who already have breast cancer, if they add soy to their daily regimen, they actually reduce their risk of recurrence. And this is largely in part thanks to those phytoestrogens. Phyto being the key word here, that means that it's a plant source of estrogen versus the real estrogen hormone, growth hormone, that's naturally found in men and women. Now, since it is a growth hormone, it will cause things to grow, including cancer. It's kind of like the fuel that feeds the fire. And by the way, estrogen is naturally found in dairy products because the milk from the cow, contains estrogen to help the baby cow grow. Now, phytoestrogens, they act in the opposite manner. They're like the fire extinguisher. They block the action, in the case of breast cancer, they block the action of estrogen, making phytoestrogens what we call anti-proliferative or anti-carcinogenic. Um, and I want to really belabor this point a bit because this is, I think, the myth that gets the most attention. And it's really, really simple to understand. I have these images here to explain. You have a breast cell. When estrogen gets close to the breast cell, it has to attach to a receptor. And there's two different kinds of estrogen receptors, alpha and beta. Estrogen naturally prefers the alpha receptor. That's where it wants to sit. But when it does so, that can often cause a cascade of events leading to cancer cells multiplying and dividing. Now, interestingly, when phytoestrogen is in the picture, phytoestrogens, they preferentially bind to the beta receptor. And in doing so, they block estrogen from sitting in the alpha chair. Or even if estrogen does get in, they reduce their signaling capacity by one tenth or one hundredth. So basically, they're blocking the effect of estrogen, which interestingly is the same thing done by a common breast cancer drug, tamoxifen. So phytoestrogens operate in the same way. Make no mistake, soy products reduce the risk of breast cancer, the risk of recurrence, and death rates. Similarly, soy products can help reduce the risk of other cancers. I'm going to focus here, in the interest of time, on prostate cancer. They've been shown to have a protective effect on men as well because of that same blocking mechanism of of phytoestrogens on estrogen. And they have no adverse effect on men or their testosterone levels. Heart disease is something else that we should mention. The number one killer worldwide, yet in most cases preventable and completely reversible through healthy lifestyle changes, one of which would be the adoption of a predominantly whole foods, plant-based diet. And soya could be a very healthful addition to that diet because we know that soy products reduce the lousy or the LDL cholesterol. And itself, soya, like all plant products, doesn't have any cholesterol. So by replacing meat and dairy with soy products in our diet, we would likely improve our heart health. And we know that children can and should definitely consume soy products. In fact, early soy consumption has been shown to be protective later in life. Consistent, regular consumption of soy products could reduce the risk of breast cancer, for example, by 15%, especially when consumed in the preteen and teen years. And that soy does not have an effect on reproductive health or puberty in girls. Now, the GMO controversy is also something that's talked about a lot. Soya is a common GMO crop, meaning it's been engineered to resist a herbicide so that we can spray the herbicide on it and the plant doesn't die and we get better yields. Sadly, there isn't enough human data suggesting harm from the genetic modification, but in fact, the greater harm might be from the potential pesticide residues that are building up on these plants that are hardy and that can endure all of this pesticide on them. But what's interesting is that most of the GMO that's grown this way, GMO soy, it's commonly used as animal feed. So omnivores may be getting more GMO soy than they thought. So in the end, the bottom line is that the benefits of soy still outweigh the risks, the potential risks from them being GMO. If you're even consuming GMO, and the way that you can be sure to be not consuming GMO foods is to buy organic, of course, if you have access to that. And again, trying to just focus on the forest rather than the trees here. GMO is a very serious issue, but the overall picture is that most people's diets in the Western world are not very healthy. They don't eat enough vegetables and fruits. So let's try to, get the overall diet quality better, and then hopefully we'll have more research to answer about the GMO situation. I want to end my presentation with kind of two questions. And the answers to both of these questions is no, you don't need soy in your diet. However, it's a very healthy food. So if you do add it, you're going to be getting wonderful nutrients from it and also protection from many diseases. And should you be worried about soy in your diet? Not at all. As long as you're choosing those least processed forms, then you should definitely try to incorporate soy in your diet, whether you're vegan or not, plant-based or not. This is a list of references that I used. Very small, I know, kind of hard to see. So if you would like more information, please email me. I'd love to hear from you. My email is didem@plantgevity.com. And please enjoy the joy of soy. I just had to say that. I love that rhyme. Thank you very much.